And rounding up his address, President Tharman says public trust in governments, strong trust in governments and other institutions sets the country apart. He noted the erosion of public trust in governments and other institutions in other parts of the world, adding that Singapore has cultivated a unique ethos of governance and politics. It's one built on trust both between government and people as well as among citizens.
This trust has allowed us to make hard choices when needed and to plan for the future beyond current electoral cycles. It is the reason Singapore has avoided the dysfunction that has bedeviled so many other countries. But trust must be continually earned through continuous dialogue, listening, accountability, and a shared sense of purpose. As we turn the page on SG60 and write our nation's next chapter, let us be guided by this spirit of trust. Let us stay firm in our resolve, yet open to change. Confident in our future, yet humble about our place in the world. Proud of our diversity, yet united as one people. This is how we will build a better Singapore, not just for ourselves, but for our children and generations to come. Majulah Singapura.
And we're joined by Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the SMU School of Law. Thanks for coming in, Professor Tan.
Always a pleasure.
Right. We've just heard the highlights of that around 28-minute speech by President Tharman Shanmugaratnam. Did we miss anything out?
So I thought it was a very comprehensive speech. It started on a very solemn note, painting, a global disorder, right? The order that we have been used to, is being upended as we speak. But I think as his remarks, as the address progressed, I think the government's plans, the vision, the priorities, the policies and the programs were laid out. And I think the government has set out an ambitious plan of action. And I think Singaporeans will certainly be looking forward to that. I think what stood out for me was how the international situation, the global order that Singapore had thrived under, is being upended. And so in many ways, how Singapore adapts to that evolving global environment will be critical in determining whether we continue to thrive and to be exceptional.
This change, the shift in global order is not just 1 year or 1 month in the making. It's been actually several years in the making. So when we say critical juncture, it's not really right now critical juncture. We've had a period in which we need to adjust to a world that is no longer what we assumed it has been in the past. When we hear critical juncture, what does that mean for our domestic context?
Well, I think what it means for a domestic context is that, we need to be adaptable more than ever. We are looking at, a system in which Singapore had thrived and grown significantly, over the last 60 years. That security umbrella, that rules-based system, there's been, in a way, undergirded by American leadership. The President pointed out that, that is rapidly fraying. And I think the government's assessment, now that we are in President Trump's second term, that we are really at the critical juncture, right? That there is perhaps no turning back. And so it is really, I think, where domestic politics is concerned, is really to demonstrate, that we must have the resolve, we must ensure that we continue to have agency, the autonomy to be able to shape our own destiny, and to prepare, for whatever comes our way. And I think, the sense was that, over the last 6 years, we have built up significant resources and ability, right? We are a safe harbor, as the President puts it.
So when we hear, and these are, I'm sure you've noted this, you would have known this from over the years. So when you mention of defense, the need for economic renewal, social cohesion, when we say SG60, these have been concerns from year one of 60 years. But when the government says it now, it's in the context of these larger pressures from this changing world order.
Oh, definitely. So, I think in the end, no matter what, the fundamentals, that has ensured Singapore remains exceptional will remain unchanged, right? So whether it is a strong economy, whether it's a society that is socially harmonious, whether we're talking about trust in the government, trust among the people, multiracialism, these are fundamentals, that will never change. So I thought the president, in laying out, the challenges before us today, I thought he also reiterated, the need for us to focus on the basics, right? The basics here referring to the fundamentals.
So when we say old playbook no longer works, there are some parts of that old playbook that still need to be kept intact.
Definitely. I think the president was referring more to how, the international economic order is changing, right? With tariffs, with nearshoring, all coming back into favor. And so he mentioned in that context the need, for new economic strategies, right? And so we have, the Economic Review Committee that is in place, and the need, to focus on the future economy, right? Whether we are talking about, sustainability, IT, quantum computing, these are really, the industries of the future. And so it becomes imperative, right, for Singapore to be able to latch onto these growth engines. And for that, we need to ensure that Singaporeans are able, to master these technologies. And he mentioned also about artificial intelligence. And of course, the note that he put there was, AI is not self-implementing, right? You need that whole of society effort, particularly when we are going to have pervasive artificial intelligence, the pervasive use of artificial intelligence.
A speech, the same speech delivered by different individuals will have a very different effect. So when you talk about these economic realities, we look at a man who was considered, Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam, for IMF head in 2019. So he's a man with very solid grounding in macroeconomic concepts. So, I was struck by saying we need to compete. We cannot just compete on costs alone. That will not work anymore. So it takes on an extra weight coming from someone like Singapore.
Oh, yes. Given the president's standing, right, in the international economic platform, I think when the president says that, we need that change of strategy, much as he's reiterating what the government has said, but I think it also signifies, the important challenges, that lie ahead, and how it becomes imperative, for Singapore to be resilient, to be adaptable, and to be mindful that things are changing, that critical juncture, the old playbook is not going to work. And so, that importance in Singaporeans coming together.
All right, a final question. You've got 40 seconds roughly to answer this. A speech like this has its limitations. It has to lay out priorities, it has to speak to the people, and yet it also speaks to government officials and to anyone watching Singapore from abroad. Given those limitations, given those goals, did our president achieve them?
Oh, definitely. I think people will be looking forward, to the debate on the president's address. And before that, right, the government, through the various ministries, releasing their addendum, right, where it will outline the precise programs and policies. So I think, that the appetite has been whetted. And I think, when you look at this president's address, I thought what was really different this time was that, it was not only reassuring, but it was also a rallying cry, that even as we face, significant challenges, there's no reason why Singapore cannot continue to be exceptional, right? But for that, it needs a whole of society effort.
And a change of the old playbook as well. Thanks so much for coming in, Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the SMU School of Law. Thanks for coming.